Hello everyone, so today I'm going to show you how we're going to download Unity before we start on our introduction to Unity tutorial. So you're going to have to go to this URL link. I'll provide the URL link below, and you're going to have to click on download Unity Hub. So once you download Unity Hub and install the Unity Hub, it should look something like this. Alright, so what we're going to do is you're going to have to go to installs, and yours would probably be empty. Mine already have 2019 Unity 2019.3.7 already installed. So what you're going to do is you're going to have to click on add over here and select the version of Unity that you want to install and go ahead and click on next. So it's going to take some time for you to install. There will be a icon progress window over here. I think it will take about maybe 10-15 minutes depending on how fast your computer runs for you to install the Unity 2019 version. While you're doing that, what you can go ahead and do is you can go ahead and create an account with Unity. So I can just show you here real quick if I were to sign in over here. So once that is done and your 2019.3.7 version is already downloaded, what you have to do is you're going to go to projects. Alright, so probably yours will be empty unless you have created some projects in the previous version of Unity. They might right over here. Alright, so every time you create a new project, it's going to appear over here inside the Unity Hub, and it's going to tell you what version that particular project was done in. Was it in 2019, 2018, etc, etc. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a new project. And what you see over here are different templates over here. So you have 2D, 3D, 3D with extras, high definition RP, and a universal project template. So we're going to focus more on 3D for now. Alright, so I'm going to click on 3D and I'm going to rename my project name to Introduction to Unity. Okay, I'll just put Intro to Unity because I already did a previous one before. So I'm going to hit Create. Alright, so let me just orientate you to the different tabs here inside Unity. The first one over here on the left hand side you see is called Hierarchy. So hierarchy is basically like your outliner inside Maya, where you have a list of items that are inside your 3D scene. So this is your 3D scene over here, and this is just a list of items that is inside it. So when you create a new 3D template inside Unity, we have two things that comes with it. The first is the main camera, as you can see over here, and the second is the directional light, which looks like the sun over here. Right? And then we have our 3D scene itself. For us to move around is exactly like Maya. You just press alternate and left click to rotate around the scene. Alternate and middle mouse button to pan up and down, left and right. And you use the mouse wheel to zoom in and out, or you can press alternate right click to zoom in and out in a more controlled manner. Alright, if you notice there is one tab over here called game as well. Alright, so basically this is showing you the game camera, in this case, which is the main camera, and how it looks like. Alright, so when we actually click play for us to run our game, it will have a view from the main camera or any other camera that you have assigned to be the main camera for the game. We have another tab here called the Asset Store. So the Asset Store is where you can go in and download some of the assets that is available inside the Unity Asset Store. You would need to create a Unity account. You can create it with Facebook or Google sign up page, and you can just use that as well, or you can just register with your email. Alright, over here on the left hand side we have this thing called Inspector. So if you were to click any of the 3D objects or any of the objects that's inside our scene, for example, if I were to click the camera over here, there are just some attributes that I can play around with to adjust the camera settings. So in the future we have more 3D objects, game objects inside our scene, and we might want to assign certain scripts to them, so this is why we do it. Alright, here at the bottom we have our projects tab. So this is how Unity organizes all of your Unity assets and imported assets from the asset store, or from wherever you have downloaded it from. You would just drag those assets inside here and you can organize all of them accordingly. Here we have the console tab. So basically for now what you need to know is the console tab might have errors. If your scripts have certain errors, it would show up over here, or warning signs. and this is where we go and try to find out what's wrong with it and try to rectify the problem from there. Alright, so the first thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna go to the asset store. So you need to have your Unity account set up, and you can do so with signing in with Facebook or with your Gmail account. Alright, I'm not gonna go through this part, it's pretty self-explanatory. So what I'm gonna look for is a 3D game kit by Unity, and there's a few different game kits over here. There's the main one, there's 3D game kit Lite, characters, environment, and prop spec, and I'm just going to use the 3D game kit Lite. So if you click on it, and for yours, if you have not downloaded it already, there will be a download button, and then there will be an import button. Alright, so I've already downloaded it, and all I have to do is to click on import, and they will ask me that it's going to overwrite certain things in the project. I'm just going to say yes. I'm going to click on import, and it will take some time to import, so just be patient with it. Just click on install and upgrade. So once that's ready, you can just click on the import. A new window will just appear, and we'll just click on import. So we'll import those assets into our projects folder. Alright, so they have to change some of the quality settings. We're just going to click OK on that. So once that has been imported to our projects file, we should go to the 3D game kit, and we should look for tutorial. Sorry, not tutorial. We should look for scenes, and under the scenes there's this template scene Unity. So I'm just going to load this up, and here is a basic template of the Unity game kit with the Alan character that is going to be our main character over here. So if I were to just go ahead and click run right now, alright, so you notice that I can kind of move around the map, or rather the plane, and I can kind of like do some of the attack moves, right, and I can jump as well. Alright, so pretty neat stuff. Now what we're gonna actually do is we're gonna create our own terrain, and we're gonna have this character to basically move around that terrain. Alright, so first things first, what we're gonna do is we're gonna go to game object, 3D object, and we're gonna hit on terrain. Alright, so as you can see, this is our terrain over here. It's quite large, so I'm just going to try to match it with our plane, and you can kind of see the comparison within the plane that we originally had together with the terrain that we just imported in. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go inside the terrain, and I'm going to do some adjustments to the terrain to make sure that the size kind of fits what we want it. So if I were to go to the settings over here, under the mesh resolution, I can kind of play around with these settings to make my terrain a little bit smaller. You might ask, why don't I just use the scale? It doesn't really work that well, and it's, I guess, better recommended to use this. So I'm going to kind of like divide it by 10, so 1000 will become 100, 160. Right, that might be a little bit too small, so let's just make it slightly bigger, 300, 300, and maybe 200 here. Alright, so it's still a bit too big, I guess, so I'll just try to reduce this a bit more. It's a bit of a trial and error to kind of see what kind of size works. So I think I'm pretty happy with this size. Maybe I can just go slightly smaller than this. Perhaps 150, 50, and 75. Okay, so that's about maybe 5 times bigger than the plane that we had over here. So I'm just going to hide this plane for a while. And if you notice, if I were to just click on play right now, my Alan character will just keep falling into infinity and die and respawning. So the reason for that is because this terrain layer that we have right now needs to be identified as an environment layer. So I just click on my terrain, Under the inspector, go ahead to the layer and change this to be an environment layer, so that when I run this, you notice that our alien character would be on the terrain itself. Alright, so it's working as fine as it was previously. Alright, so now the thing is, we're gonna sculpt this terrain, right, to make it look slightly better. And before we do that, I'm just gonna save. I'm gonna show you how to save the scene. So I can go to File, Save As, and this is the Unity folder that I created earlier, and I can go to Assets, and this was the 3D game kit that we have imported from the asset store. So instead, I'm just gonna save it under Scenes, and I'm just gonna call this Scene 1. In order to start sculpting our terrain, I'm just gonna hit on Terrain, and over here on the inspector you can see that there is the terrain icon that appears. So just now we were in settings to kind of change the size of our terrain, so this time we're gonna go to Paint Terrain, and we're gonna change this to Raise or Lower Terrain. And as you can see, there are brushes available for us, and you can change the brush size and opacity over here. And if I were to just sculpt on the terrain, it will do the necessary changes that this brush provides onto the terrain. Alright, now if you want to undo whatever you have done, so you just have to press Ctrl Z, and it will kind of undo whatever you have done previously. One more thing before we actually go on to sculpt the terrain, I'm going to go to our asset store, and I'm going to look for terrain under the free assets, and we're going to download one of the free assets that's provided by Unity, the terrain tool sample asset pack. And same thing again, I'm going to download and import it. If you have not previously downloaded it, you have to click on the download button first and then import it. And once it's ready, you can just click on import. Alright, so what that packet or package actually is, it kind of gives us some of the terrain textures that we can use, as well as certain brushes that we can use to sculpt our terrain over here. So there are just some customized brushes. So if I were to click on the terrain again, you will notice that there are new brushes that has been loaded up, and I can use these brushes to sculpt my terrain. So I'm gonna work on the sides of the terrain and kind of make my way inside the terrain, if you get what I mean. And the reason for that is basically I just want to give the illusion that the horizon is kind of like behind some of these hilly areas, so that there's a nice transition between the horizon and what the player sees, right? So I'm just gonna go around and just do a bit of a sculpt around here. And I'm gonna switch to different brush size or different types of brushes rather, and sculpt my way. And of course, some of the corners perhaps might be a little bit more higher, a bit more hilly looking. And feel free to use the different brushes that is available. Now if you kind of want to flatten it out, just have to press Ctrl Shift, and it helps to flatten out that area. Alright, so I'm just going to go around and again just kind of randomly use some of these different brushes, and I might just adjust the brush size over here, try to sculpt some of these areas which might be a little bit more hilly, so to speak. So just take your time, try to get yourself comfortable with the brushes over here. Alright, so in some of these areas, if you feel that the brush might be too strong, you can actually go ahead to the paintbrush and use a smooth height and kind of smoothen down some of these areas over here. Alright, so go ahead and continue to paint your brush, and just over here, perhaps somewhere around this area over here, you might carve something else entirely for yourself, because I might want to put a lake over here, kind of a water or a small pond or a lake over here. So I kind of need to make space for that, so I'll just press Ctrl Shift to kind of flatten it down. Right, so there will be like a bit of space for the lake or the pond area over there. Might need to continue to do a few more adjustments after that. So I'll just continue to make some of these areas here a little bit bigger. Alright, so one thing, if you notice that, let me just show you over here. If I were to click on the brush and I try to continue painting on it, and I can't do that, is because of, if you go back to the settings here, it's because of the terrain height that we kind of put in earlier. So 75 is the max, so if I can change it to 100, and naturally it will go higher or go taller. Alright, so I think that's quite hilly for now. I might need to kind of go back down and smooth some of these areas back. So if I press Ctrl Shift, is to kind of like flatten or bring it back down a notch. Right, so this would be the area designated to be the lake or water that I have. Now my alien character is stuck somewhere here, so I'm just going to bring her slightly higher so that we can see her. And again, when we click on play, should be able to travel around the map. Right, so she would be able to go around some of these hilly areas, and again, some of this might be too hilly. You might need to kind of bring it back down a notch, but so far it's good to know that our character is able to move around, even some of these more steeper slopes that we have. The character is to be able to perform and move around properly, even though we go to the height of, or the top of this map. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I might just find that some of these areas, again, might be too much. I'll just go back and reduce that. I'll go to smooth height. Let's try to smooth some of this, increase the opacity a little bit. Okay, that should do it for now. Alright, so the next thing we're going to talk about is textures, and we're going to use textures to basically paint our terrain. And the next question I guess you would ask is, where can I get these textures? And of course you can find them on the asset store. As an example was the terrain toolkit that we downloaded earlier, and they have some textures that come with it, like this moss albedo, some rocks, some sand textures over here. Alternatively, you can go to certain websites, and I'm going to show you a couple of websites over here that you can download some of the textures for free. The first is freepbr.com, where you can where they have categorized for you the different types of textures. So for example, if you're looking for ground textures, we can download stuff like the mixed ground, or perhaps some dirt material. even snow, if you want to use that. Basic some ground here as well, grass and ground. Or you can go to cgtrader.com, and if you just look for ground textures and ensure that you tick on the free textures over here, there are some free textures that you can go ahead and use for your assets. Alright, so here are just some places that you can go ahead and download. So for example, I'm just going to show you just one example. If you kind of like what you see over here, right, you can go ahead and download these textures. And just to show you how you can import your files inside here, so you can put everything inside a folder like what I did earlier, and you can just drag and drop this into the project file. Right, so it'd be best if you go ahead and put all the textures that you think you would need and download it from there. So for example, I have this moss texture over here which I might want to use. So what we're going to do is we're going to have to create texture layers. Alright, so there will be different texture layers that we can use, and we're going to paint maybe some part of it will be grass, some part of it will be rocks, dirt, etc, etc. Alright, so I'm just going to delete this for now since I already have a texture folder. So I have a texture folder over here which consists of several textures which I would like to use for this project. I have this textures folder over here, and I'm going to use some of the textures that I would like. So perhaps this moss grass that I've downloaded earlier. Now we need to create texture layers, so we're going to go to the paint textures, and we're going to put here, or go to the drop list which says paint textures, and we're going to go under edit terrain layers, and we're going to create a new layer. Alright, so with this new layer, there'll be a whole bunch of textures available. Basically it's whatever you have downloaded, and it's a bit disorganized, so it's best for you to quickly find out what were the names of the textures that you have downloaded. So for mine is called moss, M-O-S-S. So I'm going to use this as my base color. So let's just double click on this. Alright, so if you notice, once I double click on this, the moss texture is applied to my terrain. Alright, I'm missing my normal map and mask map. I'll ignore that for now. What I want to point out to you is the tiling settings over here. So if I can change this to 10 by 10 for example, alright, so I can start to see the texture a little bit bigger. Now here's the thing that you need to pay close attention to. We want to see how big the texture file is compared to our game character. So if I were to run or play, right, so you want to have a look at the surrounding textures and kind of see how proportionate it is to your actual character. Alright, so if you were to put it too small or too big, it might not look as well. So I think 10 by 10 seems kind of okay for me right now. Right, so this is something for you to take note of about the textures. Now let's just go into the texture layer again. We are missing our normal map, so I'm going to select here and look for the moss normal map. Alright, I can do it this way, or I can just go ahead and drag the normal map into the normal map slot. And they're also asking for a mask map. Sometimes they might not come with a mask map, it might come with an ambient occlusion, or maybe they call it like a fuzz or height. I guess you can kind of use this as a replacement for now, or just totally ignore it. But if you have a mask map, you should apply it over there. Right, so now you can start to see, if I were to zoom in a little bit closer, that the normal map is taking effect. So let's just select the terrain again. We can change the normal map scale over here. So if I were to, for example, put 5, you can see it's very strong, too strong. And if you think that previously 1 was quite strong, we can go to something about 0.5 or something a bit lower than that. Alright, okay, so that's that for the base color for our texture. We're going to continue on to paint some of the other colors over that, but before I forget, let's quickly put in some water effect over here. Alright, because this area has kind of been designated to be like a pond or a lake for maybe a landmark for the player to go to and explore. So for me to go ahead and insert that, I need to go to the asset store, and this time I need to look for Unity standard assets. Alright, it should look like this. With this thumbnail, it's under Unity as well, and we can go ahead and import and download this. It's going to take some time as well. You will realize that for 2019, when we import this and we try to run this, we might have some issues, but we'll try to solve it in a while. But for now, let's just import and download this package. Alright, so once the standard assets has been installed, it will come together with these sample scenes as well as the standard asset folder. So if I were to run this, you might notice that there are some error that is being prompted by Unity. So we're gonna try to solve it next. Before that, let's just do a quick save. I might just go ahead to scenes and save this as scene number 2. We have downloaded the standard assets from the asset store, and as you can see, we have the sample scene here and the standard assets which comes with it. But when we play the scene, there's some error. This might not happen for maybe a Unity 2018 or maybe 2017 version, but just in case if it does happen to you, this is how we kind of troubleshoot this issue. So you need to go locate the root folder of where your project file is. So I've saved this introduction to Unity project under this folder, and here's the standard assets that came together with it. So you're gonna need to place it somewhere else. So I'm gonna place it temporarily on my desktop. In fact, I already have it on my desktop from my previous one, so I'm just gonna replace the file in the destination. Alright, so once that is outside of our Unity assets, what we can do is let's just do a quick test by going back inside Unity and click run. The next issue would be the sample scene. Alright, over here. So for now we don't really need this, so we can just go ahead and delete the sample scene. Alright, so when you press run, right, so it should be working as fine as it was before. Now what we're going to do next is, under the standard assets that we have earlier, we're going to take the environment folder and we're going to drag this inside our Unity projects folder. Alright, so once that is imported into our Unity assets folder, we can look under environment, and under waterfall prefabs, there's a couple of prefabs that we can choose to use. So if I were to put this prefab in here, for example, right, so this would be one of the water prefabs that we can use, and we can kind of scale it down to the appropriate size that we want it to be. So perhaps you can have it something along here. Maybe I'll just make it a bit smaller over here. Right, so here's now the thing where we kind of need to cover up some of these areas over here, because it doesn't look well over here, kind of floating like that. So this way I need to kind of like come in here and sculpt my terrain a little bit more. So I'll go to my paint terrain, erase all over terrain, and I'm just going to change the brush size a bit, use a different type of brush, and just slowly kind of fill up some of these areas of the brush over here, of the terrain rather. Right, and if I need to, I can just go back here and smooth the height a little bit. Right, something that is more desirable. Alright, so it's pretty much up to you how you want it to be. I might just go in here and tweak it a little bit more. Alright, so I'm pretty much okay with that. And here we have the water texture for the lake, so to speak, or whatever it is you want to call it, in our map. So if I were to press play, yeah, I can go about the map, and I can go ahead and visit the water texture that we had earlier, and can jump in for a swim. Okay, this part obviously looks weird, which we can go ahead and fix later on. But yeah, that's how we do the water effect on our terrain.